All right. On the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast. This is the podcast that you come to if you are sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. We're well over 450 episodes now. And today's episode, I want to talk about some reflections that I've had about 2 weeks living in Japan with the family. And we're not going to be talking about bloody temples. In fact, I'm so over temples, it's not funny. This is a health episode because what I saw over there really made me reflect on how broken our Western culture here has become. Look, who's been to Japan? Let us know in the comments if you've actually been. Japan is a wealthy, modern, very developed country. It has convenience stores on every corner. It has fast food. It has technology. So all of the same things that we have. It has trains and flashing lights everywhere and crazy vending machines where you can get soft drinks from. And yet it is one of the healthiest, the leanest nations in the developed world. So let's start with some stats. The health statistics. This isn't random. Japan's obesity rate for adults sits at about 4 to 5%. 4 to 5%. In the US, it's over 40. And let that sink in. 40 versus 5. And by the way, Australia, Canada, the UK, New Zealand are not far behind the US. 40 versus 5%. That's not a small difference. That's a cultural difference. Heart disease. Japan has one of the lowest heart disease mortality rates. In other words, people dying from heart attacks mostly in the developed world. Their life expectancy, they're at literally in the top 5 consistently, oftentimes number 1. Diabetes risk, crazy lower. And you might think with all the rice they eat, right? And we blame carbohydrates in our modern meals as being the problem. Well, Japan's not dying of obesity, heart attack, diabetes. It's not a poor country that's surviving on scraps. This is a modern first world nation that has figured something out that we just don't get in our life. So the question becomes like, what is it? So I want to give you some reflections based on my personal experience there. I'm going to be honest, it was one of my bucket list countries. I didn't love it as much as I thought I would. Having said that, it was a really, really good experience and I'd probably go back. But in terms of being built for health, top notch. So let's talk about why. Number 1, they walk consistently. Our step counts over the course of a day, if I left my desk and actually did a day away, was just ridiculous, like 20,000, 25,000. We weren't doing cardio. We were just living. Walk to the train, walk to the platforms, walk up the stairs constantly, walk through the streets, walk to restaurants. And these train stations are massive. And movement for these people isn't scheduled in. They're not thinking, oh, I need to do my 10,000 steps. They're just living their life and their life is mobile. And when you compare that to the average Western parent, you think about what your day is going to entail, right? You're probably out right now, maybe doing a gym session or maybe getting ready for work or whatever. But then as soon as you clock on, it's like garage, car, office chair, car, couch. That's almost the way it goes, right? So we have to create these artificial workouts because we've engineered our movement out of our life completely. Just have a think about that. Japan hasn't. It's literally walking. Not many people have cars there. And by the way, a taxi in Japan is a kilometer, right? So that's first observation. Observation 2, portions are super normal. Almost like frustratingly normal for me because I'm so used to eating bigger and trying to fill my calorie target, but their meals are much smaller. They're not tiny, they're not restrictive, they're just like more appropriate, right? So you get a tray and there's multiple dishes on it, but there's rice, there's fish or meat, there's vegetables, pickles, soup. you finish the meal and you kind of feel like satisfied almost. You're not like stuffed and bloated and in a food coma. Whereas in Western cultures, we've kind of normalized these like massive Costco plates, I call them, right? These like huge dinner plates that are just like packed with so much food. And people are wondering like, why am I overweight? And we see the sizes of the meals that we're actually eating, and portion control's gone out the door. Japan's kind of normalized this like adequacy, right? They eat till they're satisfied, where we eat till we're stuffed. Number 3, vegetables are like automatic on everything. I generally struggled to find a meal where there were no vegetables. Even in the buffets, there were just no fried shit. Even at breakfast, there's broccoli, there's carrots, there's potato. Breakfast every time included vegetables. Vegetables aren't like a optional add-in. In the West, vegetables are kind of like something you have to try to add. In Japan, they're default. So how does that like mean anything to you? Well, because we preach high protein because it fills you up. They automatically have a high fiber diet because of the amount of vegetables that they've got in the diet. And fiber just works like a sponge in the gut. It just slows things down, which means you feel fuller, right? Calories are naturally moderated. They don't need to do calorie tracking with MyFitnessPal because it's already, the calorie calibration is already built in to their actual daily life. Does that make sense? Observation 4, simple whole foods, rice, fish, noodles, broth, eggs, tofu, seaweed, pickled vegetables, food that actually looks like real food, right? Even the 7-Elevens that you can go to there, you can get a pre-packed, very balanced meal from a 7-Eleven that's been made overnight and then ready to go for the day. It's structured and it's balanced. And yes, of course, processed food exists, but it doesn't dominate the daily intake the way that it does in Western countries. In the West, why are we fat, right? Because we sit down all day in our sedentary jobs and we have these like crazy ultra processed foods on the other side. In Japan, it's not like that. It still feels like real is baseline. Number 5, indulgence is occasional. Now, this one's really, really important. I went out to a restaurant and I ordered a meal. And of course, it's hard when you can't read the menu properly and you don't want to go to a tourist-based restaurant, right? And so I had this meal come out, and the amount of meat that was just like the meat to fat ratio of the meat, it was just like so fatty. I couldn't almost eat it because it was just so fatty. And I'm sitting there thinking, how the hell is this country so healthy, right? Well, the truth is that's not everyday food for the average person. It's like a cultural, occasional, experiential thing. Whereas for us, indulgent food and eating out is so baked into our culture. We're kind of like takeaway Tuesday, drinks Friday, brunch Saturday, drive through when you're stressed. And we've turned what is meant to be kind of like the exception into the rule. They haven't. Japan hasn't. I'm trying to pick apart, like, why is this country so healthy and an outlier for a Western country? Observation 6. This is a really, really interesting one that you can take as a practical takeaway from this episode. People eat slower. Now, when you're using chopsticks versus a shovel like we do, it naturally slows you down. So there's smaller bites, more chewing, and less like shoveling in the food. The meals that you're sitting around, people are talking, people are engaging, and they're using chopsticks. So they're eating slower. And when you eat slower, you give your brain time to learn that your gut's full. That takes time, that reflex action to tell your brain that you're actually full. That takes time. but we are fucking like this, and wondering why we're not losing weight. The hunger hormones of your belly haven't told your brain that you're actually full, which is why so many times we leave a restaurant and we are stuffed to bits because we ate so quickly. Again, no one is tracking their macros in Japan. The structure just takes care of it. Observation 7, less snacking. I didn't see people just constantly grazing all the time. If they're going to have a meal, they have a meal. Whereas we kind of like just constantly eat. And this is why something like Ozempic or GLP-1s have become so profound, is because we're always eating, we're always thinking about food. And because we're always thinking about food, we're always eating. There's always this food noise. And it's really, really difficult for us to break that pairing. If you can go with a rule that is like, if this is one option for you, if you feel like you've got a real snacking problem, you can ask yourself, if I'm not hungry enough to eat a full meal, right, a full proper sit-down meal, then I must not actually be hungry. Now, here's the key. If you are good at snacking on high protein, high fiber snacks, and you can inject them properly into your day, a packet of beef jerky here, a banana there, perfect. Snacking is amazing. But for most people, it's like, no, it's not a packet of beef jerky, it's a banana, it's a packet of chocolate biscuits and a handful of lollies from the bowl at work. That's the struggle. So if that's you, if you're the latter of that, what you've got to be able to do is you've got to be able to say, I'm not actually hungry, right? And until I'm hungry, I'm going to hold off eating rather than just like grazing over the course of a day. Observation 8, and this I found kind of fascinating, that in 2 weeks, literally 2 weeks, I noticed one guy that I thought, oh, that guy's muscly. One. Now, granted, I wasn't hanging around in gyms. I was training in a hotel gym. Like literally one guy that I was like, man, that guy trains. But walking around cities, train stations, restaurants, that's all I see. People were lean and compact and smaller framed, not built. So their culture is not optimized for like getting jacked and big and six packs and all that type of stuff. There's no like bulking and shit. It's just like, it's healthy. And because of all the reasons that we've talked about before, high fiber, eating slowly, smaller portions, you have this culture that's completely optimized for longevity and leanness, and they don't have a weight problem. It's baked into the culture. The health it's quiet, it's subtle, it's functional. Does that make sense? The final 2, the environment does the heavy lifting. See, for us, our environment's generally shit, so it's really hard work trying to implement change in our lifestyle. They don't rely on motivation. Their environment helps them to make the healthy choice for them. You walk because you have to. You eat smaller portions because that's what's served. You eat vegetables because that's what's available. You don't overconsume indulgent food because it's structured into daily life. In the West, our culture is just makes overeating so easy to do. And for us, we get swallowed up by it, right? We're in this like sedentary cycle of commuting from the morning and then working all the day. It's just, we're not burning any calories and we're eating a bunch of ultra processed foods. And that's why it's really difficult. So this is why everyone's talking about, I need to be motivated. I need to be motivated. I need more discipline. I don't think that's necessarily the case in Japan. It's just kind of baked into society, right? And it's not exhausting. It's not as if people are having a hard time doing it. And this is despite working really long hours like us. Now, the final one is that health is normal, not extreme. This one kind of really hit me as a cultural observation. No one looked like they were like dieting. No one looked obsessive. Now, I might be missing stuff, but no one looked extreme. health wasn't loud. There's no like signs everywhere with like biohackers and fitness influencers and 12-week shred campaigns. Meanwhile, in the West, we kind of just swing between this like, I don't give a fuck, I'm focusing on my career and my family, and I'm doing 75 hard. It's like there's no middle ground. It's all or nothing. So what does this mean for you? Like, you're obviously not going to move to Japan, and personally, I wouldn't recommend it. It wasn't my country like I thought it perhaps would be, but you can take something out of this podcast episode, like redesigning your environment to make it easier to be healthy. You could just walk more. Like, if literally you have a commute, you could try to bring in some train, try to bring in some public transport, or that might be ridiculous. You could shrink your portion sizes a little bit. Like, just look at your meals and just go, holy shit, like, is this normal? Make sure you're adding vegetables at your meals, vegetables and fruit. Slow down a little bit. Be okay with eating boring at home, because you shouldn't be trying to get entertainment through your food. Building like friction against unhealthy habits that have crept in and removing the friction. Like, do you have a fruit bowl on your counter? Are you doing a weekly shop with your family? Have you got backup frozen meals? You don't need like Japanese genetics. You just need some better structure. And our problem in the West, and as we bring this to a close, it just feels like everything's so hard because it's reliant on willpower. I'm trying. But in Japan, it's more of an identity. Does this make sense? So health doesn't need to be extreme if your environment's set up a little bit better. And for us, I think we need to try to embed it a little bit better into our life, into our families, to try to pass it down to the generations that, we're responsible for. This might sound harsh, but I personally think it's very, very irresponsible to be overweight. I think it's extremely irresponsible. It's bad for your kids. Like, this is a generational thing. And I'm not saying that it's easy. It's not easy, but it is simple. And if we just like look at what people are doing right, that success leaves cues. It leaves clues. And if we just kind of model that, guess what happens? We get the same thing. Anyway, guys, I'm going to love you and leave you there. Hopefully this episode was helpful. If you don't already follow the podcast, then we are on all socials where you can get your podcasts, which is Google, Apple, Spotify, and the like. Other than that, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace. Okay, team. We are finishing that one there. Hopefully that was helpful. Good morning, Chriso. I hope you're well, mate. Yeah, so many stairs. Yeah, so many stairs. It sounds like simple is the key, Vicky says. That's exactly the point. Yes, it's got to be simple, right? If it's not simple, we don't do it, right? That's simple. If it's not simple, we don't actually do it. And so what I see there is that everything is just like, it's baked into the culture. It's very, very simple to do. Okay, guys, hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions over the course of the day, guys, obviously back to regular scheduling now. Looking forward to catching up with you guys soon. And just remember, if you are one of the girls, in 35 minutes, we have our female coaching call starting, and you can go to the top of the group and you can see when those times are for you. All right, guys, peace out. Love you. Thanks for coming into this one.